Hey, welcome to the 2023 wrap-up event for Event Answer. It has been a crazy year, a fun year. We've got to do lots of new projects and got to bring so many new things to not only the channel, but our patrons as well with behind the scenes content. So thank you to all of you for joining us, and hopefully we'll get to chat with you and answer some of your questions over the next hour. Some of you even posted ahead of time, so we have saved those questions and we'll answer those in just a minute here. But we'll give our current watchers, current viewers a chance to come in for a few moments here, and then we'll jump into some questions.
Actually, let's just go ahead and start off with some questions here. So, which one would you like to start with?
I'll say that one's fine.
Start with this one?
Hey!
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, so what adhesive do you recommend to use on flat painted walls? I know that command strips do not work and gaffer's tape didn't hold. So that's a really interesting. So the walls actually behind me are flat paint. So if any of you happen to have watched our last live stream that we did this summer, we had balloons hung behind us. Those were actually hung on command hooks. And they stuck really well to our walls. And these are freshly painted walls too, which is a little bit risky, but they held up for several weeks and then we were able to pull them off no problem. Command hooks are kind of my go-to. They're my favorite because I know that most surfaces they're going to come off of. If you don't like command hooks or have found that they don't work on your surface, you could always try cleaning the wall first. Occasionally residue and buildup of oils and dirts can affect adhesives, so you might try that.
And when you say clean, you're gonna want to use like isopropyl alcohol to do that.
Yeah, very mild.
Other cleaners are gonna leave a little residue on the wall, so isopropyl is definitely the way to go for cleaning in preparation for either command hooks or gaffer's tape or blue painter's tape.
Blue painter's tape is a great option as well. If you're not wanting to use stronger adhesive, a great place to start is painter's tape. It's probably the least likely material to leave residue or wreck a paint job. So if you're not going to use a command hook, I would highly recommend painter's tape. Now, when you put the painter's tape up, you can't just do one piece of tape. You have to reinforce that. So if you have like a 260 or a rubber band that you're attaching to the wall, you want to put your tape through that and stick it to the wall and then make an H shape around it to reinforce that single piece of tape so you get lots of touch points and a larger adhesion point on the wall. And that way, if the balloons get tugged on or the little bit of weight, they have more surface area to adhere to, and you're a lot less likely to pull them down. And the same is true for having multiple attachment points too. So if you're hanging a garland and you're in doubt about whether your tape has enough adhesion, you could always put multiple attachment points. So instead of 2 spots of tape, you might add a 3rd or a 4th one to hold your garland up. And that way you're more evenly distributing the weight and the tugging sensation on those pieces of tape. So
I agree. Absolutely.
Painter's tape and command hooks is where I would normally start. I've had really good luck with gaff tape on brick. Sometimes when you get into some stones and things, it can be hard to find the right kind of adhesive, but I have had some good luck with gaff tape on brick, and it came right off without any residue or doing any damage to the wall.
So I think gaff tape is something not a lot of people know about. So gaff tape, it's also known as gaffer's tape. It's kind of like duct tape in that it's kind of a fabric-y tape, but it has a very low tack adhesive on it. It's used a lot in like the film industry for taping down cables and just attaching things that you want to be able to take off without having residue left behind.
And it's one of those, you don't want to buy the cheap kind of gaff tape.
Absolutely.
It's important to buy a name brand and a trusted brand of gaff tape because there is quite the range of quality differences, just like you would get in like painter's tape. So you want to make sure that you're buying name brand recognizable tapes with adhesives you trust.
So like Pro Tapes would be the brand I would tend to go towards, but there's lots of really good brands. But yeah, price unfortunately is correlated with quality on gaffer's tape. So yeah, that was fantastic.
Other people in the chat here, happy holidays to everyone. We are nearing the new year and so excited to be looking ahead.
Okay, would you like to do this one?
Yeah,
Or okay,
that'd be good.
let's see if we can put that up on screen here. Live Q&A. There we go.
Hey,
Excellent. Okay.
Peter asks, what's the best balloons to use for New Year's? That's an interesting question. So it depends on, first of all, are you inside or are you outside? Are you going to be out in the cold or are you going to be somewhere nice and warm inside? That doesn't necessarily affect the brand of balloon that I would use, but it would definitely affect how I inflated the balloon. If you're outside and it's going to be cold, you may want to overinflate your balloons a little bit if you're inflating that balloon inside where it's warm. That way, when you take the balloons outside into the cold air and it shrinks a little bit, it still has a nice size on it. The other option you could do is actually inflate your balloons outside in a similar temperature, and that would help those balloons stay as well. So be thinking about where is your holiday party taking place for sure. Best balloons. You know, I have lots of different brands that I like to use. I'm not brand specific, but as long as you're using a name brand decorator quality balloon, you should be just fine. And that would be something like Qualitex or Tuftex. Gamar is a good one. Bellatex is another great one. You know, the balloons that you see other balloon professionals using, there's a reason that we're using those brands, is because they're just a lot of times a thicker quality, they last longer, and they're less likely to have defects. You know, this is not the time to go to the dollar store and get those kinds of balloons if you're hosting a large party. But branded balloons, yeah, you've got quite a few options. Some of those brands you can find on Amazon, or you can search for your local, if you have a balloon store. We unfortunately don't live anywhere near having a local balloon store, but if you live in a larger metropolitan area, definitely look for balloon suppliers. You can sometimes walk into a store, see the different colors in person, or there are lots of online stores that will easily sell you these things. Some of them only do wholesale, but some of them will sell retail. So if you don't have a business license or a business account with them, some of these websites you can still purchase from. So great question.
Fantastic. Thanks,
There's
Peter.
all kinds of fun balloon designs that we can do for the New Year's too. I'm curious if anyone is doing, are you doing the traditional black and gold and silver designs, or are you going for a colorful New Year's setup? Like, I've seen some really fun colored setups, which has been something new to me, because it's always for us, you know, black and gold and silver, very traditional, but it's always fun to see what everyone is making for the new year.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Speaking of outside events, what about if it's windy outside? Do you have any suggestions for dealing with that?
we live in Kansas and it's always windy. I try my best to not do outside events if I can help it, because it just adds an unpredictability to your event setups, and should be something you always take into consideration when you're quoting a client. If they want an outside event, you definitely need to be talking about weather with them so that they're aware of balloon options and weather backup plans. Always have a rain plan, always have a storm plan, and talk that over with the client ahead of time so that everyone's on the same page when it comes to something like that. But sometimes it can be borderline. You know, it might just be breezy and not stormy. So the party is still going on, but you may be very nervous about that party. I have done multiple events outside, you know, where we had galas and things where our decorations are out in the open. So my recommendation, especially when it comes to balloons, but also any props or decorations that you may want to include, is put them somewhere sheltered if at all possible. Whether that's a patio, you know, if you're at a house, put it near a building, put it near trees, anywhere that could be a windbreak for you or offer just even a slight bit of shelter. That's not always possible. You may be setting up on a stage, you may be out in the middle of someone's yard with your design. And in those cases, if you can't find a place to put your designs somewhere sheltered, is to add weight. anything that's going to act like a kite. So I think they were asking about a circle backdrop.
Yeah, 7-foot circle. Yeah.
If you're going to do a circle backdrop, keep in mind that, if you put a slip cover over that, you're creating a kite. So you may want to talk over with the client options that allow the air to move through your design. So maybe the balloons are just on the circle frame instead of versus, an entire wall or something that's going to make it, a flat billboard that could fall over. So try and keep those thoughts in mind if you're doing designs. But adding weight is a great way to help stabilize designs, or tethering them down. So guide wires if you need to. You can't always choose where you're setting things up. So picking structural pieces that are heavy to start with and are rigid enough to take the outside elements. Adding sandbags or other weights of some kind is also super helpful. And then tethers to a top frame if you need even more added support. You can't always control the weather, but we can do our best to try and think ahead and come up with solutions before you're caught in the middle of that. Depending on the event and what your contract is with your client, you may, if you're still on site, you may be fixing things as you go, depending on, if it's a gala or a large scale event, you may be having to maintain props and things versus, say, like a birthday party where you're dropping your props off and coming back later. So just things to think about as you're quoting clients, and if they insist upon having anything outside, especially if you're going to be somewhere where it's going to be windy.
So for that particular, the 7-foot round backdrop is super popular. You use one a lot. Because of how that is structured, it has a really good spot where you can throw 2 big sandbags across the legs, and that'll hold that down really nicely. For other things like balloon columns, in addition to sandbags, you have some great choices in the round weights that you use for like an umbrella as well. Those are great for those. So
yeah, outdoor furniture stuff is a great place to look as well. Yeah, your umbrella bases is a good idea. The round bench pressing weights are another great one, because you've got the hole in the center that you could put over the top of whatever support structure you're working with. I see a lot of people watch secondhand and garage sales for people who are getting rid of their weightlifting equipment. It's a great way to snag inexpensive but really heavy pieces. And then also buying stands that are more rigid. You have your entry level props that you can buy, but once you reach a certain level of your professionalism and you're doing potentially lots of outdoor events, it may be time to step up your equipment to something that is more durable and more rigid, that can handle outside events better.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, would you like to do another question, or we've talked about talking about some of our favorite tools and supplies from this year?
Oh, it looks like we've got a couple other
more
questions here.
Great. Okay, let's start with helium.
Hey. Have I been using helium? No.
We don't do helium balloons.
Not at all. Helium balloons can really offer some gorgeous design options, but it's not something that I want to get into. Not only dealing with, purchasing the gas and maintaining it, but also then using it. It's kind of around here, sometimes it can be hard to get a hold of, depending on supply. And it's just a headache that I've not wanted to deal with. So I've really devoted myself to air-filled designs and trying to come up with clever ways that we can use an air-filled balloon to mimic the look of a helium. Now, you're not always going to be able to achieve it, and there are definitely times where you may need a helium inflated design. But for me, I would much rather just do air. It's so much easier to work with. If you overinflate a balloon, you can just let the air out and not feel the pain of letting out helium that you've paid for. So I just stick to air. I think it's really simple. Occasionally I've had need of helium balloons, and in that case, I just go and work with another designer who does handle the helium. And I'll just leave it to them.
Absolutely. Okay. What about after the event? Do you pop balloons immediately? Do you use them again?
That depends upon the client. So whenever I'm working an event, I always ask the client if they want to keep the balloons, because sometimes they do. I just did an event earlier this summer that had lots of different designs. It was garlands and columns, and wanted to make that option available to them, because the garlands, once I cut them free, they can just walk, shove them into a car and take them somewhere else. It's really only the things that are on stands that I'm pretty particular about, because I do want those stands back and I don't want to have to hunt them down later. So if they want them, I will definitely just cut them free from whatever we've done, and they can do whatever they want, because honestly, air-filled balloons, a lot of times they will last a week or two and still look amazing. If they were outside in the sunshine, maybe not, but indoor events that only are on for an hour or two, these pieces still look amazing. So if someone else can use them, I'm all for that. But most of the time, people don't take them. I've definitely offered those like after a project or after I'll film something. But it's very rare that, someone will come and pick up an extra piece. So in that case, yeah, you just kind of end up popping them. And that's just the nature of what we do. It's great if someone can take it, but otherwise it's easy to clean up
Yep.
and be very small to transport and wrap up. So most of the time they end up popped.
Okay. Balloon shine.
Oh,
Very interesting. We've had several conversations on the Patreon group about balloon shine, how popular it is or isn't, and
Yeah.
it's been very interesting.
I really, I kept seeing a lot of people using balloon shine like on Instagram. But yeah, like once I asked our patrons how often that they were using it, I think it was only like half of the people responded that they even sometimes used it. Balloon shine can make your balloons look amazing. It's super glossy and gorgeous, but there's always kind of this caveat of they're sticky and like oily afterwards. So, you only want to put it on your balloons until you've completed the design. You don't want to like put it on and then have to move them, because then you're just covered in it. I don't do it a lot of the time. I've tried it on a few things, but for the most part, it's not necessary unless like the weather isn't great. I did a design. It was a tabletop design that I made for a client, and for some reason the humidity was really high that day, and then, of course they were black and chrome balloons, and then they just immediately hazed over. And so that was one of the few designs that I've made recently that I did use a balloon shine on, and it worked great. Piece looked gorgeous. She was able to take it, lasted a long time. You just have to be really careful when you're spraying it to not get it on anything other than the balloons. I accidentally, while I was doing that project, I did it in our living room on our hardwood floors, and I had laid stuff on the floor thinking I was catching any overspray, but the overspray went beyond the coverings and our floor was so slippery. I kept trying to clean it like multiple times, and it took quite a while for it to stop being slippery, because they're all pretty much silicone based. So you're putting liquid silicone onto the balloons. So whenever you do use it, you want to be very careful when you're at your event site, how you spray it and making sure you're covering anything that's not a balloon. The floor of the venue, your backdrops, any signage, because you really don't want to get it on anything other than the balloons. But great product though.
Yeah, I would say, especially if you're in a situation where you're needing to do balloons outside and there's no shade, because obviously direct sunlight, high humidity are the two things that make balloons not look their best. And it can be a real lifesaver then to make those displays just look really good.
Nice. Yeah.
Or keep them from not looking nice. Yeah. Nothing will save them from too much sunlight eventually. But yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lot of different brands out there. We've talked about trying to do a video comparing the different ones. So if anyone's interested in that, let us know. Because there are lots of brands. I would say that they're very similar in nature. The spray itself. I think the real defining factor of a balloon shine is the spray bottle that you use. From the little bit of testing that we've done, we found that the finer the mist, the better the result. If you're using some kind of sprayer that kind of spits it out a little bit versus a fine mist, that can make a huge difference in the final glossy nature. So occasionally use it, but not very often.
Oh no, yeah, that's we'll throw that one up there. Oh, nope, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's do live questions. There we go.
Oh,
yeah.
Reading balloons.
A little spot in the car window from.
Oh no! We used a 1 week old 24 inch.
Definitely,
yeah,
definitely.
Oil spot in my car window.
Yep.
Yeah, the floor,
yeah,
anything, your clothes, it sticks to everything, and it's really hard to clean off. Oh, interesting. Do I have an electric balloon? I don't think I brought it down.
Oh, I was talking about the box.
Oh, okay. Do you have an electric balloon inflator that inflates to an exact size, or do you inflate it and then use a balloon sizer? So some of both. Most of the time I use this very fancy cardboard box balloon sizer, because it's very quick and easy to use for most things. And yeah, you can use just any electric balloon inflator, inflate it a little bigger than what you need. And then you press it up against the size of balloon you need, let the air out until the balloon passes through, and you're good to go. So I would say most of the time that's what I'm using. But I do have an electric balloon inflator that has a timer setting on it. And that one, it's by Legenda. I'm probably not pronouncing it right. But that one is only sized for small balloons. So 5, 7-inch, as well as 260s and the like. It just doesn't have the capacity to size larger balloons. I think they do have a larger pump that you can buy. You're kind of more in the professional realm of pumps, and you're going to be paying those kinds of prices. But the little timer pump has been a lifesaver, especially when I'm working on lots of projects that have lots of 5-inch balloons. So link wall projects, like the gingerbread house, that was a big one. All of those 5-inch balloons were inflated with the timer, because then you can just, one balloon at a time, do it real quick, and they're perfectly sized versus trying to inflate it and then let air out to size it.
Now, of course, the challenge with that is that because it's timer and not volume, each brand and size of balloon inflates slightly differently. So especially if you're doing multiple colors, or if you're mixing even batches from the same company, if the latex is a little bit thicker, you'll end up with just slight variations in size. You basically just start a table of, for this size and this color from this brand, 3.2 seconds.
I keep notes. And so I can usually have a starting point, and I'll be pretty close, and then I'll use the sizer to tell, like, is it too much or too little, and tweak it from there. So you do have to recalibrate it every time, but once you get it to the right size, it makes doing lots of balloons so much easier. So it kind of depends upon what you're doing. Organics, it doesn't really matter, because those can be any size, but if you're working with something, it has to be a very specific size, like link balloons or structures and things like that. It can be a huge help. So yeah, timer pump is great, but otherwise everything else is a balloon sizer box. So and cardboard, it doesn't have to be super fancy. It works just the same. And it folds flat for transportation. So this is actually, I finally had to make a second balloon sizer box. So my original sizer box I used for 3 years at least, and it was just a cardboard moving box, but I was able to use it that entire time. held up just fine. It was just beginning to look kind of ragged on camera. I'm like, I should make another one, you know, so it doesn't look quite so shabby. But you know, and you can use any configuration of sizes you need too. That you can customize it to half sizes or on a project by project basis. If you do like the one that I use, we do have a set of templates available linked in our stores. So you can check that out. It's also available for free if you're a patron member at any of our patron paid levels. So you have access to those templates that you can just hold up to your cardboard box, you know, tape it on, use an X-Acto knife to cut it out, and you'll have the exact same box that I'm using. So that is an option. Or you can just wing it and draw circles, draw a square. A square would work just as well. So doesn't have to be super fancy. Let me see this show. Blow up.
Not familiar with it. No.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Was it like a balloon competition? That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I would love to see more balloon content. Yes. I think one of the coolest things was the show Making It. I don't remember which channel that was broadcast on, but a couple years ago in their first season, they had Lily, who is the Creative Hearts studio, on that competition. And so it was fun to get to see all of her fun balloon designs incorporated into their making challenges. But I would love to see more balloon competitions.
Well, should we switch over and do some favorite things from this year product-wise? And got a couple more questions queued up we'll come back to then. So
sounds good.
Should we count these down in order? Or just, these are the top 5 in no particular order?
I was going to say, they're just kind of my favorites. So I went around and gathered up all of the new tools that I've been using this year that I'm loving. I guess not all of them are tools. I should say there's assortment of things, but most of them are tools that we've been using. Some of them in videos, some of them not yet in videos that you guys have seen, but will be coming up shortly. Maybe we'll start with this one here.
I love that.
This little guy.
It's so ridiculous.
It's a tape dispenser.
Vanna White this.
Right? That you turn the handle.
Ooh, there we go.
And it pre-cuts the pieces of tape for you.
We build lots of templates and do lots of things where there's lots of taping, and this has just been really fun to do. So
makes taping the templates together really quick. It made quick work of wrapping all the Christmas presents this year. I was not having to hold down the tape dispenser with my toe while I was wrapping. I could just crank this around and it would pre-cut several pieces of tape for me, and they were perfect. They're like 1.5 inches long. I'm not having to try and like work it against the cutter while I'm trying to hold templates in place and not shimmy anything around. So this has been a real game changer for me when it comes to taping.
So we're going to drop links to all of these things in the comments, or in chat rather.
Yeah.
These are affiliate links. If you don't want to do affiliate links, you can just search for this. I believe it's just called like an automatic tape dispenser.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
yeah. We've put them there for ease of use, and you can check them out if you like. And this also holds multiple rolls of tape. It just has a single one on it at the moment, but you can do 2 to 3 different rolls of tape on it, which is fantastic. Yeah. So I don't know that it's been featured in anything yet, but I've been using it behind the scenes and have come to love it.
Well, I think I get to do my favorite thing of the year, which is this. This is gaff tapes. This is from... I believe it's Pro Tape.
I think it's Pro Tape.
But what's different about this is that it, this is so hard to see in the camera here. The middle part is not sticky. So this part here is not sticky, but just the edges are, which means you can use this on cables to hold them down on the floor without getting your cables sticky. And it's just wonderful, wonderful stuff. It comes in this really cool like caution color, which we use when we film. You can also get it in just black if you're using it like in an event to help it blend in more.
Yeah.
And I love gaff tape. Gaff tape is one of my favorite things, and finding that was really cool.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things that you don't always think of, but you always want to be thinking safety at your events. Like, you don't want to leave any cords or anything that anyone could trip on. And when I was early in my event career, we just used clear packaging tape and we taped them down to the floors and to carpets, which was terrible. Our stuff was sticky all over the place. Our cords were sticky. So to find something like this is super fun. So it kind of meets both of our needs. Because he does all of my cable management and has to deal with my sticky cords. So having that available is really great, not only from a safety perspective, but also for maintaining your equipment.
I'm failing at my job here, putting links in the chat. There we go. Cable Path. And once again, you just search Cable Path. We'll get you that product as well. So, okay. You want to do one of the save this one. I feel like
that's a fun one. That's a fun one.
That's my favorite tool for this year.
One thing that is not a tool that I love this year and got to use for the first time was a shimmer wall. Shimmer walls have been so popular. I've been seeing them all over the place. And I finally got my hands on a wall, built it, and you guys got to see it on the Purple Shimmer Wall video. That was our first time setting it up. We've gotten to use it a little bit more, as well as trying to put it away as well. But they're simply gorgeous. Like the amount of texture and interest you get, especially if you put a fan behind it, it just makes your design so dynamic and interesting. But one thing that was really interesting and I wasn't prepared for was the amount of work that it takes to put up and take down a wall. I have a lot of respect for rental companies who have these multiples of these in their inventories and rent them out every weekend. Because it was a lot of work, trying to put all those tiles together and then pop them back apart. So one tip that I found while we were pulling it apart and as we were putting it together was try and keep it in as big of sections as you can. And that'll make your setup go so much faster. So ours was fresh out of the box. So it was individual 12 by 12 inch tiles. And that took a long time to put that that entire wall together. I think it was a 6 by 8 foot wall. And it was at least 30 minutes of us snapping tiles together. So if you have a larger vehicle you can transport those in, try and keep them as big of a section as you can. Same goes for storage. When we went ahead and pulled it apart, we actually left them into sets of 4 so that, it's a quarter. It's a lot less tiles you have to snap together the next time we get to use the walls. So that was something we learned while using it, but it's so gorgeous. I'm so excited to use it in another setup. I want more colors. And that's the hard part is like, what color do I choose next, But it's a gorgeous piece. Just know that it's a little time consuming and it's a little big to store. So, but absolutely love it. The other thing that is a favorite on my list, and I bought this last year, but I didn't really get to use it. It's only really been this year that I broke it out of the box and put it through its paces, and that was the Cricut Maker 3. So I've had a vinyl cutter previously, but
It's not a good experience.
It was not a good experience. It was fine, but it was very fiddly, and I don't like fiddling with technology. Because you had to calibrate it and you had to set it manually, which meant a lot of testing. And I just wanted to put my design in and have it cut and be done, So I finally bought the Cricut Maker 3, which I heard you could do lots of different materials on. So far, I've only really used it for vinyl or cardstock have been the 2 pieces that I've used. But it's so simple. It's so easy. It's in a box actually right behind me on the floor. And it comes out, every once a month for a project. I've gotten to use it with client projects, which has been great. So doing custom vinyl logos for balloons, custom text and wordings, as well as fun prop cutouts and things. So that has been a learning journey for me. We often get asked a lot of questions sometimes about cutting out some of our templates on our Etsy store. And people ask me about Cricut instructions. I'm like, here is Cricut's, help desk article about something. So I don't know tons about them, but might as the Cricut, yeah, same. I love vinyl, and it adds such a custom touch to balloon designs. I don't think I'd want it to be my everyday job, because I'm not super fiddly. You know, the weeding, it's a very detail oriented, which is not my thing. But it does offer so many cool options. So I bust it out like once a month for a project. If you're a patron, you just saw me use it for our New Year's Eve pop balloon tutorial that was up for our patrons. That was a custom vinyl that I just quickly made right there in the Cricut Maker space with the free fonts.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And it was great. Ran it right through, cut it out, took it right over. So still doing some experimenting with different vinyls as well as different transfer tape options. So I had just been using some random transfer tape I got off Amazon, but this time I tried it out with press and seal, because you kind of need a transfer tape that's not very sticky, because you really don't want that sticking to your balloon versus the vinyl. So I'm kind of still testing out some of those things, but the Cricut Maker 3 has been super fun to use, and it makes prototyping really fast. You know, I can take my idea, cut it out, make it, and then adjust really quickly. So that's been fun.
Okay. And
our last
final item.
Last favorite of the year. And this is such a fun tool to use, and one that we kind of were late in finding. Like, I think this has been around a while. But it's this tool. This is called the Striker. And you pop it open, and it literally has like nails or pins or something, and you use it as a wand to pop all of your balloons, and it makes fast work of teardown jobs.
Yeah.
We filmed a bunch of content in September for you guys, and so we had like a dozen balloon designs that we tore down all at once, and this little guy made such quick work of the balloons, and even some of the balloons that were a couple weeks old, so they were soft and had some give, but we were still able to go at it with this guy, and it was so much fun to use. That's a big part of it too.
I will say, like, that link is not an affiliate link. That's just directly to their website. We're trying to work with them to be able to add it to our store. These are so popular, they're having a hard time keeping up. So, but yeah, love it. It's
such a cool product.
Tool, so.
Yeah, and like I said, it made teardown so fast. We were able to get all the balloons down, clean them up. If you wanted to use something like this outside, I was thinking the other day, you want to put your balloons in a bag first. So use one of your big balloon bags, put your design in it, and then use a wand or something to pop your balloons, so that all of those little balloon bits stay in the bag and don't end up in the grass. You do not want to be picking up balloon bits out of the grass. I did a design last summer in our backyard and popped the balloons before I knew about the bag trick. And then was out there forever picking up balloon bits. And then, 6 months later, I walked out there and there's still balloon bits in the yard, So this is probably our funnest and favorite tool of this year, and wish I had found it sooner.
And Peter, yes, it is really fun.
It is fun. It's so fun.
As long as you're in a situation where you can be loud.
That's
that'd
true.
Be the
you're popping a lot of balloons very quickly.
But yeah, it was great fun.
Watch out for fishing line.
Yeah.
Don't get it caught in your fishing line. But yeah, it made really quick work of everything, especially if things were still on stands. You could just wave it and pop them. Yeah, it was great.
Let's, I think we skipped over a couple of questions here, so let's pop this up. Balloon stuffing machines.
Oh, yeah.
What are your thoughts?
We were just... I keep going back and forth about balloon stuffing machines. What are my thoughts?
We do not own a balloon stuffing machine.
We don't.
That's the starting position from here.
So you can buy the globe ones with the pump. So you put the 18-inch balloon in, it sucks it out. You can stuff in, pull it out. I mean, that's super, super easy. And I think if you are doing lots of stuffed bubble gifts, That's a great tool to buy. I think it's a couple $100. We've looked into it. It's like $300 or something like that. But if you're doing them a lot, the time savings would be huge.
Well, I think there's a couple of different versions of the tool now.
Yes.
I think the modern version definitely makes a lot more sense. Being able to do it with the clear bubbles versus just the like a latex balloon. I think it just gives you such a much nicer look.
Yeah.
It'd be a fast way to do the clear bubbles.
Yeah. So that's a good point to make, is it depends on what kind of balloons you're wanting to stuff.
Yeah.
You know, is it a latex balloon or is it a plastic sort of bubble balloon? You know, the clear ones that you see from lots of different brands. We tend to use the boba ones. So there's different techniques depending on what kind of balloon you're using. Whenever I'm stuffing, I tend to stuff in a bobo for gifts. So you'll see a lot of my videos where I'm doing like stuffed animals or florals. Those tend to be in the bobo balloons. If you're wanting to stuff latex balloons inside of a latex balloon, that's a lot easier to achieve. In fact, you can do that without a machine. But I have seen some really cool tools. I don't know what it's called, but it's a little plastic piece you clip to the side of your table and you attach your large, 24, 36-inch balloon. And then you can stick your tiny balloons in through the nozzle, inflate them, tie them. But the way that this plastic piece works, it doesn't allow air to escape. So it's very easy to stuff latex balloons inside other latex balloons. And I think that's a more affordable piece for sure. So if that's kind of what you're thinking of doing, that would be a great piece to use. I see a lot of people use that if they're doing helium, and that way you're not letting all your helium back out. Because right now, whenever I stuff, I inflate the balloon, put in a latex balloon, but when you do that, sometimes some air escapes as you inflate the little balloon. Doesn't matter when it's air, but if you're talking helium, it makes a lot of sense to not release that gas back out. So, don't have one personally, would love to try one. If there's a lot of interest in stuffing balloons, I'd be happy to look into it. I just, from a clientele perspective, don't stuff a lot of gifts locally. And we always try to make our content very approachable. So there's always going to be awesome special tools that allow you to do things easier. But I try to make content that anyone can do with just a few basic tools. And so that's why you see me inflating the bobos with hand pumps or the $20 electric inflator versus using a specialized machine to do that, which would make it much easier. But if you're just making one or two of them for a friend or a client, it just is a lot more approachable.
Yeah, startup costs can be really high for some of those things.
Yeah.
Let's do one question. Okay. Before the striker, what was your favorite or preferred way to pop balloons?
A safety pin. I always or a corsage pin. Whenever I go to an event for a setup, I always have those things in my event bag. And safety pins are great because you can close them up and you're not going to get poked in your pocket or something if you have it on you. But yeah, I would just go at them with a safety pin or a pair of scissors. Like if you're trying to be quiet, if you get up right into your balloon design and just nip the balloon right near the knot with a pair of scissors, it will be less likely to pop and more likely to just deflate. So usually it was a safety pin, but if I needed to be quiet in the teardown, a pair of scissors. Very low tech. I did nothing special.
Okay, so speaking of the bubble balloons, any tips on putting a book inside of a bubble balloon?
Oh, I have never put a book inside, so let me start there. But I think the stuffing techniques would be the same. I think you want to be very strategic about what size of book you're wanting to put in your bubble, because depending on if you're using the wide mouth bubble, like we showed in our most recent bubble video, the book has to fit within that nozzle. Or if you're wanting a bigger book, you basically have to cut open the top of your bubble balloon to fit the book inside. And so the bigger the hole, the more sealing you have to redo. And I find that the bigger the hole you have to seal, the more likely you are to miss a spot and have an air leak. So being very strategic about what kind of book you're putting in, but I think you definitely could. You would still use monofilament or fishing line to hold the book upright. So you would want to tape, now you are taping into a book, but you would want to tape your fishing line strategically into the front and back covers of the book, depending on if you're wanting it closed, standing in the bubble, or if you're wanting it open. That would make a difference as well. I think strategically using some binder clips to hold the pages open would be helpful. But you want to test out, before you put it in the bubble, taping your fishing line to the book and holding it up from a singular spot where the nozzle would be, and see how does the book sit. Because I have definitely tied my fishing line in places that I thought it would hang straight, that then it hung weird in the bubble and I had to fight the placement inside the bubble. So definitely test that ahead of time before you put it in the bubble. But I think it should totally work. I would definitely put some filler in the bottom of the bubble so that the book can sit in something. And I think that will also help hold it in place. Anytime you have something that's just levitating in the bubble, it's more likely to spin or not sit where you want it to be. So anytime you can set it down in the bubble or in something in the bottom of the bubble, the better it's going to work out. But yeah, just don't put a big book in there.
Let's go ahead and stick our free thing back in the chat there. So as a special thank you for everyone for joining us today, we do have our snowflake template set to be free for you today. So you can go and grab that with the link there. You can check out everything else in our store, other templates. Yeah.
We're so grateful for everyone who is subscribed, everyone who's a patron and supports us. This is a business that's very near and dear to our heart, and we wanted to thank you all for being along for the journey. So as a thank you, you can get this snowflake template, which would be great for any winter events you have coming up here. And like you said, the link is in the chat, and you can take it right there. It's free until midnight.
Yes, there you go. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, so get on it. Don't wait on it. If you'd like the snowflake, click on that link. You'll go through checkout, but it is free. And definitely check out some of our other templates and plans. If you'd like to up your party game, not only do we have these tutorials on YouTube, but lots of the designs also include written plans that you can reference as you make the piece, so you don't have to start and stop a YouTube video multiple times to make something. So like the gingerbread house that went live a couple weeks ago, there's a full set of plans for that one. And coming up in the new year, right off the bat, we're going to have multiple balloon designs that have sets of written plans and or templates, so that you can recreate these looks for yourself very easily and not having to watch minute details on a YouTube video. You can have the entire thing laid out for you in black and white, color actually. It's all illustrated in color, but will help you make those projects just like you see me make them in the videos. So definitely check those out, and there is a bunch of new plans coming in the new year, which I'm excited about.
So sourcing balloons, you mentioned earlier there's lots of places.
Cheapest place.
A little challenging of a question.
Yeah. Cheapest place to get the highest quality balloons for your money.
So I think I'm gonna go ahead and add some framing around this question.
Sure.
Cheapest is not always best, especially for client work. Having a source that you can get balloons quickly, reliably is very, very valuable. We have a source just a couple of hours away from us, so we can get balloons incredibly quickly. If we have something pop up, and then I'll let you answer the actual question there.
Yeah. So if you're you're not having an account as a professional.
Yeah,
So
that's challenging too.
that's something to keep in mind. So obviously there, if you have a business, you're going to have access to more options. Like the balloon distributor that we use, you do have to have a business. But that's not true for everyone. Let me think. Balloonsfast.com is one of them. What other websites do I use? Instaballoons.com is another one. And they will sell you these name brands, same things that I can get from other distributors as well. And they will sell them to you at a retail. You don't have to have a business for. So you could definitely check into those two websites. Let's see, the cheapest place. Those are going to be your cheapest places. You can buy your balloons off Amazon, but Amazon is not necessarily going to be the cheapest place. The real thing you have to watch is shipping costs. So obviously, if you're buying from these other balloon websites, there's going to be shipping costs. Some of them offer free shipping once you hit a certain point or a discount. Amazon, the price per package of balloon is most likely, if not always, slightly higher than off of these balloon distributor websites. But a lot of times you can get free shipping with that. So it's kind of a give and take there. Amazon also doesn't always have all of the balloons. We do our very best to give links in the bottoms of all our videos so you can easily find the same materials that I'm using, but sometimes they aren't on Amazon. So you may run into issues of getting a particular size of a particular color. So you do have to kind of keep that in mind. Amazon is convenient and you can usually get them fast. You just can't get as much variety or all the sizes in one color that you may need. So Balloons Fast is one, Insta Balloons is another that I know do retail. But there are lots of options out there. What you can do is if you like a certain balloon brand, so say you like Qualitex, you can go to Qualitex's website and they won't sell directly to you, but on their website, they have a map and you can search for balloon distributors near you and find people who sell what you're looking for. So if you live somewhere like us where you don't have someone local that sells balloons, you will have to look online, but go to a balloon brand's website. Almost all of them have some kind of map or searching tool that will allow you to find balloons near you and shipping options.
Okay, let's got a production question here. So how long does it take to edit videos and what software do you use?
Let's see. So when it comes to making the videos, usually, so there's time ahead of time. So all of the planning, pre-production that happens, the sourcing all of the balloons and props and everything. That varies. Sometimes I'll do a project on a whim because I'm really inspired by something. And then other times, I'll have to plan weeks in advance to be able to get all of the props and the supplies in order with a plan ready to go. So that part can vary quite a bit. When it comes to filming, most of the time, the filming is about 4 hours, depending on the project. Smaller projects, obviously a little quicker.
4 to 8 hours,
4 to 8.
I'd say.
Large ones like the purple Shimmer Wall, that was a long shoot. That was probably 8 hours of not quite 8 hours of filming. Yeah, so we did it in 2 days. So usually however long it takes to set up and film is usually about how long it also takes me to edit it. Because some things are more straightforward. Organic designs take longer to edit because there's a lot of me holding a balloon up somewhere, seeing if I like it and taking a couple steps back and then attaching it and then taking a couple steps back to look at it. So there's a lot of that you guys don't see that just gets cut out. So those tend to take a little bit longer to edit. I would say the editing and the voicing, the post-production, takes about as long as it takes to film. So 4 to 8 hours. The edit part itself is kind of short in that.
I think she's underestimating that by about a factor of 2. I think your edit takes about the same amount of time, and voiceover takes another 3 to 4 hours. Yeah.
So it's kind of rough estimation. It depends on what I've made and what angles we have. Some projects you can kind of show from one angle, and other projects you're kind of down in the nitty-gritty, and it's important to show you something up close, which requires, you know, moving the camera and changing angles and things like that. It just takes a little longer. As for editing, though, I actually started editing on my Mac using iMovie. So if you've seen the early videos of Event Answer, probably the first 3 years, 3 years probably, of Event Answer, I was using iMovie, and so very simple cuts. I didn't go to school for editing. I've kind of just learned as I've gone along, and then a couple of years ago picked up DaVinci Resolve, and DaVinci Resolve is what we edit in right now. I know enough to get by and edit how I want to edit. I don't know how to do fancy things. I should probably take a course on it, frankly. But I'm always learning, you know. We watch tons of YouTube videos of other people's editing styles and stuff, so always picking up new skills. But yeah, free DaVinci Resolve works wonders. It's a great program to work with, and then we're able to add in all of the on-screen text and graphics and stuff in that. I do voiceover directly into that program, and then we render it out and upload it to YouTube. So.
And to Patreon, who gets it a week early.
Yeah.
Yes. Shove one last plug in there for joining our Patreon. Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you to our patrons. Our patrons make it possible for us to do a lot of these projects. We've got 3 different levels that you can join at. Any of those levels, any of the paid levels, you have access to our videos a week early. We're trying to get much better about that early release so you can see things ahead of time. And then in between the weeks where there's videos, Patreon also gets behind the scenes content and bonus content. So I mentioned the New Year's Eve pop balloon. You know, that was a project that went up right before Christmas. They've also had some other projects that, you know, don't make it to YouTube. Those are just for our patrons. But if you're looking to up your party game, you know, you can always join at a higher level. I do monthly Zooms with our studio supporter patrons, and we get on and talk about the projects that they're working on, projects I'm working on, sharing tips, and I can answer your questions directly. So different levels that you can check out. Our middle level, and above, gets access to our entire digital library. So if you've been looking at any of our plans or templates, you should consider joining our Patreon, because they have access to the entire library as well as bonus content and ad-free content. So no YouTube ads.
Yep. Okay. Cool. Well, I think that gets us to 8 o'clock, which was our target.
It went by so fast.
Yeah, it did. If you have additional questions, please feel free to leave them on one of the posts, and we will try to answer those for you. So thank you so much for joining us today. It was really fun to get to hang out with everyone again and answer questions. Yeah,
fun way to wrap up the new year this year, and we're so excited about 2024. We've got a lot of new projects coming, templates, written plans to make anything balloons easier for you to set up. If there's anything you'd like to see us make or want help with, you know, definitely comment those things as well. We're always taking in new ideas and looking for ways that we can help you make your party journey easier. So thank you all so much for being here. Thank you to all our patrons and our subscribers. We're here for you, and we're so excited to do even more parties and events next year. So it's been a great year. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you chatting and all the wonderful questions. It's been great.
It has. Now, what's the thing we say at the end of the videos?
And remember, stay creative, everybody.
Bye.